The rain came down like it had a grudge against the world. Thomas Mitchell stood at his living room window, watching the storm turn his quiet street into a river. He'd lived in this modest blue house for 8 years now, ever since Jenny passed. Just him and his boy Ethan making do. At 42, Thomas had learned that life didn't always go according to plan. He worked construction, kept a clean home, and made sure Ethan never went to bed wondering if his dad loved him. That was enough. Or so he told himself on the lonely nights. The knock came just after 7, barely audible over the thunder. Thomas opened the door to find a young woman in a wheelchair, soaked to the bone, holding a small child who couldn't have been more than 3. The little boy clutched a worn teddy bear, his eyes wide with fear. The woman's maroon dress clung to her, and her hair hung in wet strands around her face. She looked exhausted, desperate, and somehow proud even in her vulnerability. "Please," she said, her voice steady despite the shaking of her hands. "Our car broke down 2 blocks from here. My phone's dead. I just need to call for help." Thomas didn't hesitate. Come in, come in." "Lord, you're both soaked through." He helped her navigate the small step at his doorway, then closed the door against the storm. The woman wheeled herself into the living room while Thomas grabbed towels from the bathroom. "I'm Thomas," he said, handing her the towels. "That's my son, Ethan, upstairs doing homework. Let me get some dry clothes for you and the little one." "I'm Rebecca," she said, wrapping her son in a towel. "This is Owen. Thank you. We've knocked on 3 doors. You're the first person who answered." Something about the way she said it, grateful but not surprised, told Thomas she was used to disappointment. He found some of his old shirts and sweatpants, and a pair of Ethan's pajamas that might fit Owen. While Rebecca changed in the bathroom, Thomas made hot chocolate, the real kind, the way Jenny used to make it. When Rebecca emerged, wearing his oversized clothes, Thomas could see her more clearly. She was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes that had seen hardship. Owen stayed close to his mother, but his fear was giving way to curiosity as he peeked at the bookshelf in the corner. "The phone's in the kitchen," Thomas said. "Take your time." He heard her make several calls. Each one seemed to lead nowhere. When she came back, her composure had cracked just a little. "The tow company can't come until morning," she said quietly. "And every hotel within 20 miles is booked because of some convention." She paused. "I'm sorry to impose, but is there a shelter nearby? Somewhere I could take Owen for the night?" Thomas looked at this young mother, trying so hard to maintain her dignity, and then at the little boy who'd finally relaxed enough to sit on the floor, examining the teddy bear's worn ears. "You'll stay here," Thomas said simply. "I've got a guest room. Haven't used it in years, but the bed's good. Ethan can bunk with me." "I couldn't—" "Yes, you could. And you will." Thomas softened his tone. "Look, I've got a son, too. If I was broken down in a storm with him, I'd hope someone would do the same." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, Thomas made spaghetti. Nothing fancy, but Ethan's favorite. His 9-year-old son came downstairs and, after initial shyness, started showing Owen his collection of toy cars. The 2 boys sat on the living room floor, racing cars and giggling while the storm raged outside. Rebecca watched them with such tenderness that Thomas felt something shift in his chest. He hadn't realized how quiet his house had become, how much he'd grown used to the absence of laughter. "He doesn't usually warm up to people so fast," Rebecca said as they sat at the kitchen table while the boys played. "Owen, I mean. He's been through a lot." "Ethan, too," Thomas said. "Lost his mom 6 years ago, cancer." "I'm so sorry." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, listening to the rain and the children's laughter. "Can I ask what happened?" Thomas said carefully. "The wheelchair, I mean." "Only if you want to talk about it." Rebecca took a deep breath. "Car accident. 3 years ago. Same one that killed Owen's father." Her voice was steady, but Thomas could hear the weight beneath it. "I was 7 months pregnant. They told me I'd never walk again. That I'd probably never work again, never give Owen the life he deserved. But you didn't believe them." She smiled a little. "I believed them about the walking part. They were right about that. But the rest? I decided they were wrong." She paused. "I run a company now, small tech startup. We develop accessibility software. It's not much, but it's growing." Thomas shook his head in wonder. "Not much?" You're raising a child alone, running a business, and you're doing it all from a wheelchair. That's not much. That's extraordinary. Rebecca looked at him with surprise, as if she wasn't used to hearing that. The next morning, the storm had passed, leaving everything washed clean and bright. Thomas made pancakes while Rebecca called the tow company. Ethan and Owen had become fast friends, already making plans that assumed they'd see each other again. When the tow truck arrived, Thomas helped load Rebecca's things. She pressed a business card into his hand. "I mean it," she said. "If you or Ethan ever need anything at all." Thomas looked at the card. Waverly Solutions. Rebecca Waverly, CEO. His eyes widened slightly. She caught his expression. "You've heard of it?" "My buddy works in tech. He mentioned your company, said you're revolutionizing accessibility design." Thomas laughed. "And here you were last night, standing on my porch in the rain." "Here I was," she agreed, "meeting one of the kindest men I've ever known." 3 weeks later, Thomas got a call. It was Rebecca. "I have a strange question," she said. "My company is expanding. We're building a new headquarters, and I need someone to oversee the construction. Someone who understands accessibility, who thinks about people, not just buildings. I know you work construction, but would you consider project managing for us?" Thomas was silent for a long moment. "Rebecca, I'm not qualified for—" "You're more qualified than you know. You saw a woman in a wheelchair in the rain and thought about how to make her comfortable, how to help her maintain her dignity. That's exactly the perspective I need." The job changed Thomas's life. Within a year, he was heading the construction division of Waverly Solutions, designing buildings that worked for everyone. But more than that, he'd found something he thought he'd lost: hope, partnership, and eventually love. Rebecca and Thomas took their time. They built their relationship the way Thomas built buildings, with care, attention to detail, and a foundation meant to last. The boys became brothers in all but name. And on a spring day 2 years after that stormy night, Thomas and Rebecca stood together in the building he'd designed, surrounded by friends and family, and promised each other forever. That evening, as the celebration wound down, Thomas found Rebecca on the accessible balcony he'd specifically designed into their new home. "Watching the sunset? Do you ever think about that night?" he asked, taking her hand. "The storm?" "Every day," she said softly. "I think about how I knocked on 3 doors before yours. I think about how scared I was, how sure I was that the world was cold and closed." She looked up at him. "And then you opened your door." "I'm glad I was home," Thomas said. "I'm glad you saw me," Rebecca replied. "Really saw me. Not the wheelchair, not the struggle, just me." Thomas kissed her forehead. "How could I not? You're the strongest person I know." From inside, they could hear Ethan and Owen laughing, arguing over a video game. The sound of family, the sound of home. Sometimes, Rebecca thought, the worst storms bring us exactly where we need to be. Sometimes getting lost is the only way to be found. And sometimes the greatest blessings come soaked to the bone, knocking on your door, asking for help. All you have to do is answer. Based on above script, give me 60 best related video prompts to use in my video background.